Today, we're talking about something called the manager's mirror. And it's this really powerful idea that, to be a better manager, you got to start by looking at yourself. It's not just about the tasks you do. It's about who you are at your core. So before we learn how to manage, we should ask why we want to. Man, that one hits deep, right? This is the starting line. It's not about the career ladder or a fancy title. It's about getting real with yourself. Why do you want this? Because your answer, well, that's going to shape everything else. So to make this real, we're going to follow along on a journey with two learners, Meera and Aarav. Think of it like we're joining them on this walk. We'll be looking at all the management theories for sure, but we're also going to be looking in the mirror right alongside them. And right off the bat, you can see how they think differently. Aarav, he gives us the classic textbook line, right? Management is getting things done through people. Simple enough. But then Meera comes in with something deeper, the art of holding intention and execution in the same breath. Whoa. So you've got one view that's all about process and another that's really about presence. It's a cool contrast.
Okay, so let's dig into the nitty-gritty. Most of what you read about management boils down to these 5 core jobs, these 5 functions. This is really the foundation. But look, just listing them out is boring, right? So we're going to make each one stick by sharing a story from Meera and Aarav. First up is planning. And Meera's story here is perfect. She talks about organizing a college festival. They decided on the theme super early and boom, everything else just fell into place. The decorations, the performers, all of it. See, that's what planning is. It's not just a to-do list. It's like setting the North Star for the whole project.
All right, next we've got organizing. Aarav had this part-time job at a bookstore, and he remembered they completely rearranged the shelves, not by the usual categories, but based on how people actually walked through the store. That's organizing in a nutshell, isn't it? You're just setting up your resources in a way that makes the most sense for what you're trying to do. Then there's staffing. And wow, this one's a biggie. Meera shared this story from an HR internship where she saw firsthand how just one single bad hire completely destroyed team morale. People got burned out. It's just a massive reminder that getting the right people on your team, it's everything. It is absolutely critical. Okay, and what about directing? Aarav's example here is from when he was a cricket captain. He realized it wasn't just about strategy or telling people where to stand. It was about motivating the team, keeping everyone's heads in the game, pulling them all towards that one goal, winning. That's the real human-to-human part of leadership. And last but not least, controlling. Now, I know that word sounds a little intense, right? But it's not what you think. Just think of it like a feedback loop. Meera and Aarav used this when they were studying for exams. They'd check their progress, see which subjects were weak, and then change how they were studying. It's all about making sure you're still heading in the right direction. And that's the key takeaway, really. It's not a straight line. It's a constant cycle of doing something, checking in, and tweaking your approach. So there you have it, the 5 core functions. That's the what of management. But that's really only half the picture, isn't it? The how you actually do all that stuff. That comes down to your philosophy. What do you really believe about people, about work itself? Let's get into that next. All right, so the first big school of thought is the classical theory. You've got guys like Taylor and Fayol, who basically saw management as a pure science. Their whole goal was to find the one best way to do any task. So it was all about rules, structure, clear chains of command, anything to make things as efficient as possible. But then things started to shift. A totally new idea popped up, the behavioral theory. And this theory says, hold on a minute, management isn't a science, it's an art. It's the art of understanding people. So forget about that one best way for a task. The new focus was all about motivation, how teams work together, and, just figuring out what makes us humans tick. And inside this whole behavioral idea, a guy named McGregor came up with this really powerful set of questions. Basically, are you a Theory X manager or a Theory Y manager? Theory X says people are kind of lazy and you need to watch them closely. Theory Y says people actually want to do good work and grow. Aarav, by the way, he was all in on Theory Y. So which one are you? Your answer says a lot about what you believe about people, deep down. And that brings us to the modern way of thinking. And all these modern theories basically agree on one thing. There's no single best way to manage. The best approach? Well, it depends. It always depends on the situation. That's the contingency approach. I love Meera's example here. Think about how her grandma runs the house.
A regular Tuesday is totally different from managing the chaos of a massive family festival, right? The context changes everything.
And here's the really cool part. You don't have to pick just one theory and stick with it. You can mix and match. You can blend them. Look at Meera. She's all about human behavior, but she's also using that contingency idea, adapting to the moment. And Aarav? He's more of a systems and decision theory guy. He sees the big picture, the whole interconnected system, and he likes to make logical choices. I love how they described it. It's like adding spices to a sambar. Each one has its own flavor, but when you put them together, that's when you create something special. Okay, so beyond the big theories, let's talk about the day-to-day. A manager has to wear a ton of different hats. A guy named Mintzberg actually broke it down into 10 different roles. For example, are you a natural liaison, like Meera, always connecting people and building bridges? Or are you more of a negotiator, like Aarav, someone who gets in there and finds a solution? Figuring out which hats fit you best is super helpful. And to actually be good at wearing all those different hats, you really need 3 kinds of skills. There's the technical stuff, knowing the actual work. There are the human skills, being good with people. And then there are the conceptual skills, seeing the big picture, the why behind it all. Meera knew her superpower was her people skills. Aarav knew he was a rock star at the technical side of things. The real trick is knowing what you're good at and what you're not so good at. Yet.
And look at that. Our journey has brought us right back where we started, back to that mirror. We've talked about the functions, the big theories, all the hats you have to wear, the skills you need. And now the question comes back to you. After thinking about all this stuff, what kind of manager do you really want to be?
So Meera and Aarav wrapped up their whole conversation by writing down these 3 questions in a notebook. And this right here, this is for you. This is your homework. I want you to actually take a second, look in that mirror, and ask yourself these 3 things. Number 1, what kind of manager do I want to be? Number 2, what skills do I already have in my toolkit? And number 3, where do I need to grow? Seriously, answering these questions, that's step 1. And we're going to leave you with this final thought from Aarav, which I think is just brilliant. As they were reflecting on all this, they had this light bulb moment. They weren't just studying management. They were already doing it. They were practicing it. And that's the whole point. The real learning isn't in a book. It's in that mirror. Your practice starts right now.